Hey y'all, it's Care. I've decided to do my wrap up and my TBR a little bit differently this month because I just posted my 2021 TBR video just a few days ago, and I really wanted to be timely with all of my January reading plans, specifically like everything I really want and need to read this January. But at the same time, I didn't want to turn around and post 2 TBR videos back to back, and I also need to go ahead and post all of my December reviews for everything I read in December. So that's why it's all going to be included in one video today. I'm going to try to keep things a little bit more concise than I usually do, which I think is actually going to work out pretty well because most of everything that I read in December I've already talked about at length in my December reading vlogs, or actually I think 3 of these books made it onto my favorites of 2020 video that I put out last week. So I'm still going to give you my thoughts on everything I read in December. I'm still going to give you my ratings, but I might not go as in depth on some of the reviews just because I feel like to people who watch a lot or all of my videos, you're getting tired of hearing me talk about the same books over and over again. So I got a new journal to write all of my stats in, all of my incorrect stats. As we know, math is not my forte here, so I'm gonna go ahead and feel confident about giving you like the following information, but also keep in mind this could be completely wrong. From my calculations, I read 3 5-star books in December, 2 4-star books, 3 3-star books, and 2 2.5-star books. I did not count correctly. I also read another book, so I read 11 books in December, not 10. And it was The Girl from Widow Hills, or Widow Hill, by Megan Miranda, and it was a pleasant surprise for me. I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself. I'm not even looking at you guys. I can't get over the makeup. I gave The Girl from Widow Hills 4 stars because I thought it was fun and refreshing and a little bit different than the thrillers that I've been reading recently, and it definitely is my favorite book that I've read by Megan Miranda. It's about this woman who has a sleepwalking problem, and we find out that in her childhood, she was swept away by a storm, which we know I love memory loss. We know I love a big storm. So like, memory loss gets on my nerves sometimes, but like this was done so differently because she couldn't remember things because she was sleepwalking. Like that made sense in my mind. It checked out. I love how I just made myself an expert on sleepwalking. So basically one night, this woman is out sleepwalking and she falls over something and she wakes up and it's a freaking dead body. And then she's got blood all over her and she doesn't know if it's her blood or his blood or if she killed him or if someone else did. Like she doesn't know if she needs to be worried for her safety. She doesn't know if she needs to be worried and like covering up her own tracks. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. Again, I think it's getting this high rating from me because it just felt different. All right, let's just go back to the real video. But let's go ahead and get started with the 3 5-star books because coincidentally, all 3 of these books made it into my top 10 of 2020. So the first is The One by John Mars. This is like a sci-fi techie thriller that I loved so much. It follows multiple perspectives, all revolving around this dating app, or like it's not even a dating app, it's like a matching app where you get matched biologically to your soulmate and just all of the drama that ensues because of that technology. It is so interesting and so unlike anything I've ever read before. It really reminded me of Black Mirror, which is one of my very favorite shows. And then I also read Anxious People in that same week. So this is by Frederick Bachman, who is one of my favorite authors. I feel like everyone already knows what this book is about, but it's about the bank robbery turned hostage situation that is, I will say, low stakes. That part of the book is not intense. Really, it's like a character study on the robber and the hostages. And yes, it's funny, but it also is really emotional. This was a really emotional read for me, but it is ultimately uplifting, and I highly recommend this book. I'm going to link the reading vlog where I read both of those, and oh my gosh, The Chain, which I guess I'll talk about in a minute. But I read all 3 of those in a week early in December, and it was just such a nice reading week, you guys. And then the last 5-star book that I finished in 2020 was Battle Royale by Kushin Takami. I have talked about this book for so long, so many videos on my channel, but my elevator pitch about this book to you is that it's pretty much like Japanese Hunger Games, but this book was published 9 years before Hunger Games was released. I'm not saying that with any shade, I'm just telling you so that you are informed. But this is one of the most graphic, violent, amazing books that I've ever read, and I loved the characters. I loved the friendships that were formed, like the alliances. I loved the backstabbing. It was so dramatic. Please check it out if you like that sort of like dystopian survival game trope, you know what I mean? Yeah, it is so good. And then since I already mentioned it, I read The Chain by Adrienne McGinty. This is one of the 2.5-star books that I was talking about, but since I've actually spent some time away from the reading experience, I kind of want to just bump it down to flat out 2 stars. This was just not good. I buddy read this with Haley Hughes and Jess from Books Past Bedtime, and I'm pretty sure we all had the exact same thoughts in that we couldn't put it down for the entire first half, but then when the initial conflict seems to be resolved? Excuse me? Resolved. Girl, get it together. The book just takes off in a different direction that was just unnecessary and weird and just gross. I don't know. So The Chain is referring to this kidnapping chain where basically this mother gets a call, her daughter has been kidnapped and she can't get her daughter back until she pays a ransom, and then also kidnaps someone else's child, and then anyway, she's not gonna get her kid back until that next family even like does the same thing of paying the ransom and then kidnapping another child. So it's wild and it's very fast paced to start, but then everything just kind of unravels, and I think that it would have been such a fun short story or novella. It just was not for me, it was not for Jess, it was not for Haley, so that's kind of where we're all sitting on it right now. And then the last book that I've already talked about a lot on my channel is The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayless. I read this for the Disney Channel Games Readathon, and I included it in my DCG vlog slash like a cozy Christmas vlog. Again, it'll be in the cards. And this was another 2.5-star read for me, but this one's closer to a 3-star. There was nothing that made me mad about this book, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. The entire concept of this book is that our main character, Kate, is single and it's around the holidays, and she signs up for this service that's gonna send her on 12 blind dates throughout the holiday season. So I thought that sounded really fun. I thought it was gonna be like spicy and festive and cute, and it was not. It wasn't. I'm sorry. At first, I was really feeling it because I thought, wow, this writing is so atmospheric. I am in it. Like, I really do think Jenny Bayless is a talented writer, but I think that her writing style would be better suited for a different genre. I mean, of course, she can do her, but I just thought there was going to be a little bit more magic to it. Those are pretty much my thoughts, but again, you can see the entire reading experience in that vlog that I posted because it's the only book that I read in that vlog. Now, let's move on to All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. This was the very last book that I read in 2020, and my knee-jerk reaction is to give this book like a 4 or 4.5-star rating, but since it's nonfiction, and since I've not really had enough time to read enough Own Voices reviews of the book, I'm not gonna rate it in this video yet. I don't have a rating board on Goodreads yet, but I really highly recommend this book. I listened to the audiobook and it was narrated by the author. George's book is all about the intersectionality of growing up Black and queer, and now they identify as non-binary. What I loved about their book so much was that, yes, there was a lot of pain in this book and there were a lot of really tough stories to read, but there was also a lot of joy in this book as well. George talks a lot about their family and what it was like to grow up with a pretty great support system and with representation with what they were feeling within their own family. And yes, this is marketed as a YA memoir, I think, but this is not because the topics shy away from anything. It really does not. But it's just really touching to me because George wants to gear this to young adults so that hopefully people can read this and learn from their experiences and know that they're not alone in whatever they're going through. I just think it was so beautiful. I really highly recommend this book, especially the audiobook, since it's narrated by the author. All right, let's move on to Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. So if you were looking for a sign, wow, like I really need to read Rebecca as soon as possible, this is not that sign. I really did not care for Rebecca as much as I hoped I would. I did give it 3 stars, but if we were just rating based on pure enjoyment of the story, it really would be about a 2-star book for me. Now, before you guys hate me in the comments, we can have different opinions. I'm happy for you if you loved it. If you still are interested in reading it, yeah, go read it. It's a classic for a reason. Daphne was definitely a pioneer in writing domestic suspense, especially being a woman writing in like the 1930s. Like, hello? I am one of those readers who likes to take the context of the writing and the bigger picture and incorporate it into my rating of the book. So altogether, I think this is somewhere around 3 stars. But it just was not everything I was hoping for it to be. I just about could make an entire rant review video about the book. I buddy read it with my mom, and get this, you guys, she's actually probably gonna be mad that I'm telling you guys this, but it's too funny not to share. I was looking at her Goodreads and saw where she had finished it, but she hadn't done her star rating. I was like, I saw where you didn't rate it. What's your final rating? She was like, oh, that was my rating. I'm not giving it any stars. It doesn't get any stars. So 3 stars from me, 0 stars from my mom, I guess, which, what an icon, just making up her own rating system on Goodreads. Things that I did enjoy about this book were, first of all, the writing style. I really found myself getting hooked into du Maurier's writing and the setting and the atmosphere. I really did feel creeped out while I was reading the book, even if we were just talking about some shrubs. So I really highly commend her for being able to do that to me. I loathed Max. I could not stand Max. The narrator meets him like right up front, and she'll be like, so Max, where are we going today? And he'll look at her and be like, are you the stupidest person that I've ever met? And then she looks over at him and will be like, wow, I have to marry this man. I found a guy who told me I was a star. Have you seen that TikTok thing? That is the second Mrs. De Winter. Like, she would kill that trend. So to wrap it all up, again, don't read it because I told you to read it, but I'm not telling anyone not to read it. Okay, so now let's move on to 2 library books I checked out that are now gone. I read the first 2 books in the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson, and I gave both of these 3 stars. It's YA mystery series, and honestly, it was much better than I was expecting it to be, but I'm just not a huge YA reader. I did not continue with the series because I was just absolutely loving it. I literally only read the second book because the first book ended on such a cliffhanger. I was intrigued enough, like I feel like I had spent so much time with the characters and with the mystery that I wanted to know more. I feel like one of the mysteries was kind of resolved. We don't get that main like past mystery resolved in the first book, so that's why I read book 2, which it really wasn't resolved until like the end of that book too. So I don't think I'm gonna be continuing with it. The last book that I have to talk about that I read in December is The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler, and I gave this book 4 stars. It's somewhere between 3.5 and 4 stars for me. Now, just like I said with Rebecca, please do not go out and read this book because I told you to go read this book, or I think that everyone needs to read this. No, I know that this worked for me very specifically for a few different reasons that we'll get to in a second, but at the same time, I'm not saying don't read this book. I know that pretty much all of my friends that have read this, I have like 8 friends who have tried to read this, and every single one of them DNF'd it and could not stand it, and I get it. The writing is just really not good. It's not very strong writing, but I just could not get over how perfect the setting was, and there were these like, oh, there were just a few little different details in the story that I was just dying. I loved it so much. So this book takes place in Alaska. Graham runs a diner in Alaska. Zoe comes to visit Alaska. She's a tourist. They meet, they hit it off. They're friends. You'd think that they're not gonna get along. Like, he's kind of made out like he's gonna be kind of grumpy and that she's gonna be different, but it's really not that. They get along pretty much from the beginning. And then from there, they just go do touristy Alaska things together. Just Alaska things. I really don't have that much more to say about it. I don't even know how to explain myself other than I think that 2020 just finally broke me, and I read something so bad that I think it might actually be genius. I don't know. We have now entered the January TBR portion of the video. So first of all, speaking of Talia Hibbert just now, I really hate to break it to you because you seemed really excited there, but you were not talking about Talia Hibbert. I have 2 books that I started in December and did not get around to finishing just quite yet, so I want to talk about those now. One of them is Merry Inkmas by Talia Hibbert. I'm about 20% of the way through the book and I'm really enjoying it so far. This is the first ever shirtless man on the cover book that I've ever read. So far, it's not anything more than the other books that I've read from Talia, so if I had to predict, I'm probably going to give it 4 stars. I know I'm only 20% of the way through, but I feel like I'm usually really good at reading like how I'm gonna enjoy something. I really do like this book so far. And then I also didn't get around to finishing Leaving Atlanta by Tayari Jones yet. This is a novel, so it's fiction, but it's rooted in a lot of truth and a lot of historical facts, so it's kind of like historical fiction, I guess. I know I've talked about it on my channel before, but this book is about the Atlanta child murders, but through the eyes of a young Black girl growing up in Atlanta. Again, it's not nonfiction, it's fiction, but Tayari has inserted a young character named Tayari in the book, so I really am looking forward to doing more research as to like what that's all about, where Tayari is from. Is this part of her reality growing up? I don't know. I feel like there's so much to dig into here, and I'm really excited to finish it this month. Next, I am so excited to announce that I'm going to be the guest on the Sugar and Spice Book Club live show this month. I think that the live show actually might be the first weekend in February. It's a brand new romance book club run by Amanda from Ginger Snapped Reads and Kirsten from Kirsten's Corner. They're two of my best friends here on BookTube. But anyway, their January pick for their book club is The Simple Wild by Kay Tucker, which you probably know. I already read that last year. Absolutely loved it. I'm gonna do a little bit of a flip through to refresh my memory, but I'm not gonna be rereading this month. But they kind of softly added Wild at Heart, which is the second book in the series, to the book club list. So like, I think that we're mostly gonna talk about The Simple Wild in the live stream. And then for those readers who did decide to go ahead and read Wild at Heart as well, we're gonna do like a little mini discussion at the end if we all get to this book as well. I just started this book this morning actually, and I'm already on page 86. Like, I can't put it down. I love this world so much. I'm not gonna tell you what this is about because this one kind of ends on a cliffhanger, but The Simple Wild is about this girl named Calla who has an estranged father who lives in Alaska. Calla lives in Canada. So when she finds out that her father is ill and they don't know how much longer he has to live, she decides to go out to Alaska to really get to know her father for the very first time. And her father runs a charter plane company. Once she gets there, she butts heads with one of his pilots named Jonah, and from there it is like a grumpy sunshine slash hate to love or enemies to lovers, whatever you want to call it, little romance. But it is a lot more than that. I hesitate in calling this like purely a romance book because a lot of it is women's fiction, or which I also hate that term. I don't like calling stuff women's fiction because that's like such a tight label, but a lot of it is a family drama. It feels very much like a Hallmark movie, but again, if it's in Alaska, I'm also gonna be in Alaska in my heart and in my soul. I think I'm also gonna be a guest on a different book club, but I don't think that they've announced it yet. I don't know. I don't know if they've announced the book. I don't know. I'm not up with the times. So I'm not gonna say which book club, but I will keep you guys updated throughout the month so you can read with us too. But it's Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell. I've heard not to look too much into this one before I start it, but Lisa Jewell writes awesome thrillers. She's been a hit or a miss for me in the past, but so many people love Invisible Girl so much that I think there's no way I'm not gonna enjoy it. Continuing with the book club picks, I really want to start reading with Gabby from Gabby Reads' book club that she has just started. She's calling it the Book Troop, and it is just like the most precious thing ever. We're gonna be reading thrillers this year, and I think it sounds like so much fun. Her January pick is The Wife Upstairs, which I have heard is a Jane Eyre retelling. So I want to read Jane Eyre this month as well, since I just put it on my 2021 TBR. The stars have aligned. And then the last little read-along thing I'm participating in is the Jane Austen read-along this year. I know that Elena from Elena the Great is one of the hosts for that, but I will link the other hosts in the description as well. This month, we're gonna be reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. We're gonna read a Jane Austen book one month, and then the next month read a modern retelling of the story we had read the previous month. So I just think that sounds so cool and so different. I'm really excited for it. I also am gonna be buddy reading The Passengers by John Mars with Amanda from Ginger Snapped Reads this month. I think we're gonna start this on the 10th. This is another sci-fi slash dystopian type thriller about self-driving cars gone wrong. Doesn't that sound amazing? And lastly, I have two different secret TBRs that I'm trying to like contain myself about and like not give anything away. So for the first secret TBR, I'm gonna be reading The Last Victim, which is a nonfiction true crime book about this guy who started writing letters to serial killers while they were in prison, and then they started writing back to him. Like, what? Doesn't that sound so crazy? I'm also gonna be reading The Butcher, which from what I've heard is like a super underrated thriller that honestly I have not heard too much about. I've read the synopsis, but like I don't feel confident enough in my memory of the synopsis to tell you what it's all about. But I know it's like this serial killer who was supposedly murdered all these years ago, and then in present day this young guy finds a chest of things that he thinks could look really bad for his family and his family's history, and then also he becomes involved with this girl who is convinced that she has a relative who was murdered by the butcher who was supposedly killed all those years ago, and then their paths cross. Like in the modern day, those two people's paths cross. You know what? I love how I just was like, I have no idea what this book is about, and then I just told you word for word what the book is about. Anyway, the last book on that secret TBR is going to be The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. I've started this book before, like only the first few pages and wasn't vibing with it at the time, but it's a domestic thriller that I think could be really fun, so I'm excited to get to it either way. And then for the second secret TBR video, I'm gonna be reading Rock, which is a male-male romance, I believe. I think it's gonna be a little taboo, but I don't know why, and I am a little nervous. I'm also gonna be reading something called Junkie, which I'm not sure if it's called Junkie or hashtag Junkie, and depending on the title, I'm gonna feel like very different types of ways about it. I'm thinking it's called hashtag Junkie because of the hashtag on the title. I think it's gonna be about like the underbelly side of racing or drag racing. I hope it's illegal. That sounds juicy. And then just to completely throw a wrench in whatever you were thinking the secret TBR video was gonna be, the third book for that one, I'm going to be reading East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This is like an Adam and Eve / Cain and Abel retelling, which I know those stories, so I don't know if like the entire plot of the book is going to be spoiled for me. I hope not, but it sounds so good, and it sounds like something that I would absolutely love. It's a multi-generational family drama saga. Like, that sounds like it was written for me specifically. Okay, so that was overly ambitious and entirely too long, but thank you so much for sticking with me through it all. I'm planning on making things a little bit different this whole year. I'm gonna speak my soft goal into existence, hoping that it's gonna hold me a little bit more accountable, but I kind of have had this pattern recently of uploading on Friday and Sunday, and I've really been feeling that. So what I'm hoping to do in the new year is to do vlogs on Friday, like put up a new vlog on Friday and then put up a new sit down type video on Sundays. So let me know what you think about that schedule. I think it would be really fun. Thank you so much for watching. Also, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I'm over 700 subscribers now, which just, it blows my mind. Like, my mind can't wrap around that number, but what I can say is just thank you guys so much for all the love, all of the support. If you have any like book recommendations for me after knowing kind of what my taste is, please let me know. I would love to chat in the comments. I hope everyone has a great week this week. I will see you in the next video.